Mario and Luigi Brothership, in my opinion, has one of the best stories that I've ever seen out of Nintendo for Mario. In fact, so good that I absolutely had to talk about it. So today, I wanted to talk about the entire story and the ending and kind of explain what's going on and why I love it so much. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before we get started if you really enjoy this Mario and Luigi content. It helps out a lot, and let's dive into the video. So one day, Mario and Luigi is running around the Mushroom Kingdom when they start noticing their hands are glowing, until shortly a giant portal in the sky opens up and rifts them to a new land far away. It also rifts Peach and the Toads of the Mushroom Kingdom, and also Bowser's army with Bowser and Bowser Jr. as well. Mario and Luigi are sent to the land of Concordia, but they don't know why and exactly where they're at. But Mario gets lost on an island and starts reminiscing of his brother Luigi, and actually starts seeing him in delusion as he's on this island stranded. He really does care about his brother, so much so that in fact his brain plays tricks on him as if he's actually there, leading him to the real Luigi. Mario makes a jump for the giant ship in the ocean and is actually saved by his brother Luigi in the process, and the bros are back together on a giant ship-shaped island called Shipshape. There, Luigi introduces Mario to a little girl named Connie. She is a botanist, which is this game's electrical version of a botanist, someone who takes care of plants. We also meet Snoutlet, which is the main companion and guide for the bros in this game. He's like a pig outlet, but he's definitely not a pig because he says it multiple times. He ain't a pig. Connie is the central keeper of the Unitree, is actually being trained by her mentor, another botanist, in order to help grow this tree and keep Concordia connected. Well, one day, the Unitree actually started to wither and die, separating all the connections from the different islands and spreading them out across the vast ocean. Well, Connie then decided to plant a new tree here on Shipshape, where she could actually use it as a makeshift sail for the ship as well, where she can sail around the ocean and try to connect all the other islands back together, reconnecting the entirety of Concordia once again. So overall, it's a simple job where Mario and Luigi must sail the ocean, finding islands and getting to the top of the lighthouses, where they can then connect the lighthouse to the current ship-shaped island's Unitree in order to drag it along with them throughout their adventure, eventually reconnecting Concordia with all the islands that they have collected. Finally, the gang make it to the first great lighthouse in Lush Green Sea, and there's 4 of these, and in order to go to different seas and make new currents for them to travel on, they need to go to these lighthouses for it to illuminate a path forward. Inside the lighthouse, we see these weird red light bulbs, which are different from the yellow ones that the bros collect throughout their adventure for energy. We can see Goblik is being fed these red light bulbs in order to power up with this specific energy, and he's being fed by this trio. This is the Extension Corps. It consists of X, 10, and Shun. Yeah, that's their names going from right to left, of course making the word extension. We learn that they're working for somebody named Zaket, and we really don't know anything else about this creature. All we know is that they're doing his dirty work, and right now, they're putting a giant beast in front of the bros named Goblik, but the bros take him down relatively quickly. Once to the top of the Great Lighthouse, Connie uses her botanist powers in order to bloom the flower at the top of the Great Lighthouse in order to illuminate a new path for the bros and the gang to follow. The gang reaches Desolate Island, which is actually full of inhabitants being taken away by giant metal birds called snaptors, and we don't know why, but there's one group trying to investigate and figure out what's going on called Idol, which is a group of young kids trying to be the hero in their own little gang. We also learn about Connie's mentor being Cosette, and how she was an amazing role model for Connie, teaching her the importance of being a botanist and her duties that she needed to fulfill. She was like a really good Jedi master to an apprentice. But the gang runs into another character named Technicky on Merry-Go Island, and they need her help in order to find out how all of these birds are snatching people and exactly where they're taking them. So the gang comes up with an idea to either send Peach in as bait or send in Luigi, and it's up to us, the player, to choose which one we'd rather do. Oh yeah, and we also found Peach. Yeah, Peach is here. It wasn't really a big thing. And personally, I chose Luigi. So they would actually have to bury Luigi in the ground so he wouldn't get scared and run out. But it was his job to be snatched up by a snaptor and taken back to wherever they're taking these characters. Technicky would also hook up Luigi with a direct camera feed in order for us to see exactly where he's at, or to at least communicate with him at the very least. Thanks to Luigi and Snoutlet, we now know that they have been taken to Coins Island, which is like this weird modern cityscape, and on the top of the island somewhere is Luigi and Snoutlet. It's up to Mario to go find them. Once we reach the top of Coins Island, we find the Extension Corps once again, and we learn of their plan is to collect people and take them to the next great lighthouse in order to produce this stuff called Gloam. But the bros are left to fight yet again against a mega snaptor this time around. But it's not just Princess Peach here, we also have Starlo, which we run into as she gets washed up on the beach, and it's a Dory from the Mushroom Kingdom as well for some reason. But they all team up to be one part of a giant team idol, and Peach joins the crew and they're all going to go off on their own little adventures as we go on our adventures in order to find certain things in order to help the gang. Now the second of the 4 great lighthouses is surrounded by giant metal walls, thanks to the Extension Corps and Zaket trying to block out people from coming in. But Techniki actually constructs a rocket ship that Team Idol decides to hop on and guide. And they literally try to commit suicide. Why in the world are kids doing this? But thankfully they're okay. They're just a little knocked out. Once again, I'm still amazed that anybody said that this was a good idea to let kids do this. Like, why didn't Mario and Luigi speak up for them? So the second lighthouse has been turned into one big Gloam factory, and it's up to Mario and Luigi to sneak around so that the people don't tattletale on them and get them in trouble, which is actually kind of funny if you think about it, when they're just trying to save everybody in there. The gang then runs into the Extension Corps and Zaket himself once again, and Zaket is a character that we get to learn a little bit more about. The main thing that we get to learn is he's easily forgetting names. In fact, he can't remember anybody's name, and it's not just to be funny. He literally just can't remember names. So the gang brings in another creature that they've been feeding this Gloam to, and it's a giant metal barrel robot named Sharpcast. But once again, the bros make quick work of this creature. Once to the top of the lighthouse, a new path is formed across the ocean, opening up a new area to the third part of the sea. We then see a scene of Zaket preparing for his master plan, which seems to be him feeding this weird egg thing tons of Gloam in order to help it hatch. We then make it to Bulbfish Island, where things are starting to get weird. We're starting to see weird red glowy creatures walking around and actually acting very isolated and mean to everybody else on the island. But we also run into a couple, one ice themed and one fire themed. The guy being Chilium and the girl being Bernadette. They are going to play a major role in this game, believe it or not. They are the prince and princesses of their respective clans, and they decided to go off on this island together as they are madly in love and they can't deal with the rest of their clans butting heads with each other back on their home island. And of course, a Mario game, you know their home island is Heat Freeze Island, an island split down the middle between ice and fire. How many times have we seen this? But of course, the main reason everyone is fighting is because they believe their side is better, especially when it comes to cuisine, as the fire side has a really good hot stew that they think is better, and the ice side thinks they have a really good ice cream gelato that they think is better. Mario and Luigi recommend that the food be eaten together as they're both complementary of each other, but they argue no. So of course, this really does nothing. Back on shipshape, the Extension Corps actually boards the ship, and we see 10 use some type of ray wand or ray gun in order to shoot Gloam into Chilium and cover him head to toe in this stuff, making him very isolated and mean to everyone, including his soon-to-be wife, Bernadette, and she's very sad to see this happen to him. Now there's 2 islands that Mario and Luigi have to visit, which are neighboring homes of Heat Freeze Island, and they're just their own separate sides as their own separate islands, with the ice island of Slip and Glide and the Heat Island of Scorching. On both of these islands, we start seeing members of Bowser's army appear for some reason, like Spikes, Goombas, Koopa Troopas, and even Bob-ombs. We then are able to find a secret lab from 10, and we read one of the notebooks that claims how Gloam is actually extracted, and it actually comes from spite bulbs that actually have some dark energy within them. We also find Bowser Jr. at the top of the summit. It's his job apparently to round up the minions for Bowser in order to get them all grouped together again, since they've all flung here in different areas. Essentially the same exact thing happens on Scorching, where you find more of Bowser's minions hanging around, and we also find Volko on that island as well, which is a very important character to help cure anybody that's suffering from Gloam. And he uses these things called ant berries, which apparently can only be found on Way Away Island. Well, in the meantime, we have a wedding to host and also a third lighthouse to tackle. Yes, Bernadette and Chilliam get married, and we get to gather the supplies and actually watch the wedding ourselves before we head to that third lighthouse. The third lighthouse serves as yet again another gloam factory for the Extension Corps and Zaket, so it's our jobs to get through without being detected and finally reach the crew at the end. There we run into Shun, who's guarding all the gloam bulbs and decides to have us fight a giant yucky creature named Pipe Gunk, who's able to turn from fire to ice through the press of a button. Shortly after, we see a massive battle take place in the skies after leaving the lighthouse, where it's a battle between Bowser's army and, of course, the army of Zaket. But even when getting absolutely obliterated by another force, Bowser still has eyes on Mario and the gang and starts firing down on Shipshape. This causes Shipshape to lose connections with some of its islands, and it also sends the Bros overboard. The Bros land on Offanden Island, which seems to be an island populated of Bowser's army, where they're all gathered there in order to wait for further commands. But the gang also runs into a little kid named Buddy, who seems to have become best friends with Bowser Jr. But he's conflicted. Bowser Jr. wants him to do things that he doesn't want to do. For instance, he is told that Mario and Luigi are the bad guys, but doesn't believe him, and instead has a really good heart, but also wants to become friends with Bowser Jr., so it's a confliction that he battles the entire game. After connecting the island and all the other missing islands that disconnected from Bowser's barrage, they actually get costumes in order to look like regular NPCs, in order to infiltrate Offanden once again and find out where Way Away Island is, which apparently is now the home base for Bowser, where he's actually built his own castle on. In the process, we still see a fight between Bowser Jr. and Buddy, where Bowser Jr. still is upset with Buddy for helping out Mario and Luigi. But Bowser Jr. is learning that you can't do this to friends, and even Kamek, somebody that helps Bowser and Bowser Jr. to take on Mario and Luigi all the time, even tells Bowser Jr. you can't do that or you're gonna lose friends. Gathering information, we finally found Way Away Island and Bowser's secret castle hideout, where all the ant berries are being stored, and we need those in order to cure anybody with the gloam disease. We then run into Bowser, but of course, Bowser wants a fight of all things, because it's the Mario Bros. Of course, what else would he want? So he gets absolutely pummeled in the process. During this battle, the Extension Corps were able to make an entrance and actually use the Gloam Ray in order to turn Buddy into Gloam Buddy, where he's very self-centered and angry all the time and actually snaps at Bowser Jr. in the process and even freaks Bowser Jr. out and makes him run away crying. But we quickly cure Buddy and also find a giant vault of ant berries in Bowser's castle, which somehow we carry all of these to the ship in order to feed all the people that have been infected by Gloam. But by doing this, we've been delaying the inevitable, where Zaket's flying fortress is now emitting gloam through the air. But the only way to reach it is to tackle the fourth lighthouse, the final lighthouse, which will give us a path directly to Zaket's fortress. We then blast our way to the fortress in order to confront Zaket ourselves. But except it's not ourselves, because Bowser wants revenge against Zaket and his crew for taking out most of his crew in the beginning of the game. But Zaket lowers his fortress into the water in order to infect all the 4 lighthouses and corrupt them with gloam, which then sends a gloam energy ray straight towards the center island of the fortress and corrupts Bowser of all people. We now have to take out Bowser again, but this time a gloomified version. But before the Bros can take out Zaket and the Extension Corps, a giant raid then heads for them. They have no choice but to run away and dive off the island. In fact, the mysterious voice even whispers for them to jump. And the Bros find themselves on a strange island, where Mario finally realizes this is the same island that he was actually washed up on in the very beginning of the game when he was looking for Luigi. They make their path through a jungle area on the island and start hearing the voice once again, and the voice tells them that he's the one that actually sent them here, because their bonds are stronger than anybody else's that he could find. Their bonds as brothers is one of the strongest, and it could be a bond strong enough to defeat the evil Zaket, and even alludes to the fact that lots of the Luigi inspiration that he's been getting along the way has been touches and hints from him the entire time. This talking creature is the Great Conductor, another pig-like floating character that's probably also not a pig. And Snoutlet is the Great Conductor's assistant. It's the Great Conductor's job to keep all flow of energy working finely. He's pretty much like the overseer of the world, a great sage if you will. Concordia is a completely different world and a completely different universe, and he actually had to send Mario and Luigi here from their universe as they had the most powerful bonds that he could find, and Snoutlet would help them along the way. But he also tells us something very interesting. Connie's Watanist mentor, being Cosette, is actually Zaket. Yeah, they actually make this reveal kind of early in the story still, where yes, something must have happened to Cosette to actually transform her into the evil Zaket. Apparently everyone has a little weakness in them, and if you have any type of weakness, it can be exploited by an enemy, and that's exactly what happened to Cosette. But now the Great Conductor needs to test those bonds of Mario and Luigi to make sure that they're strong enough in order to take down Zaket and his fortress. There's now a giant spiked ring of gloam blocking our entrance into Zaket's fortress, so we need to find an inventor to help us create something in order to get over or under that fortress. So we gain the help of one of the smartest inventors on Concordia outside of Technici, and actually a rival of Technici being Adaphne. Adaphne and Technici will eventually work together, helping to solve the problem, but you get to choose which plan that you want to go with. Technici's plan of flying over the field, or Adaphne's plan of going underneath the field. I chose Technici's in order to fly the ship into the air, but in order to do so, they had to go back to Way Away Island where Bowser's castle lies in order to grab one of his airship engines in order to have the entire ship shape float in the air for a short amount of time. This would allow us to jump over the spiked force field that was guarding Zaket's fortress. Then the bros head back to the fortress once again to confront the Extension Corps and Zaket. And like I just previously mentioned, we have to have a battle with the Extension Corps before wiping them out, and they flee the scene because they don't want to get punished from Zaket. But then we finally get to fight Zaket himself. After an intense battle, Zaket falls to the ground and actually changes back to Cosette, which is Connie's mentor, which we've already found out about thanks to the Great Conductor. But then the egg that Zaket had been trying to hatch finally hatches and reveals none other than Reclusa, the main mastermind behind all of this. He is the one that actually created the persona of Zaket in the first place, and infected Cosette with that new personality. He essentially used Zaket as kind of the Gyrohelm in order to revive himself as Demise from Skyward Sword. If you've played that game, you'll get my reference. But after all of this, he's finally awakened, and it's his job to put the entire world into isolation. Absolutely no bonds. So he then transforms the entire fortress into one giant tree. This isn't the Unitree, however. This would be known as the Solitree. From this tree, Reclusa would own the entire sea, changing everything to a blood-tainted red, even the sea waters itself that's corrupting the skies all around the bros. And on every single island everywhere, these flowers are blooming and grabbing the civilians of these islands and putting them in their own virtual reality solo life experience, where there are no more bonds in the real world. Everyone is isolated in their own minds, all alone. Well, once again, it's up to Mario and Luigi to collect bonds in order to reverse these effects and allow themselves to enter the Solitree themselves. So they go around finding different characters that have strong bonds, like Chillium and Bernadette, which obviously have one of the strongest bonds in this game, as they literally just got married. Another one comes from the family of Build It and Make It, and also Garumbla, which is part of that family as well. One giant happy family creating another bond for the bros to use. There's a couple of bonds from other characters that we've met along our adventure, but the key ones for me were definitely between Bowser Jr. and Buddy, who have finally came to be friends again, who creates another bond for us to use. And we would even use a bond from the Extension Corps themselves for us to use as well. With these bonds, Mario and Luigi can now take to the air and bust through the force field of the Solitree, once again re-entering the same fortress for a third time. Halfway through the fortress, Mario and Luigi find themselves in a daze before being warped to what seems to be the Mushroom Kingdom. And in this Mushroom Kingdom, there's Princess Peach and eventually even Bowser and the rest of the kingdom, and even Bowser's minions as well, all having a great swell time, even eating at dinner. What in the world is going on? Well, eventually, Mario and Luigi find out that they are in some sort of matrix. They're actually in the same virtual reality that the plants were actually placing all the different residents of the different islands. They themselves have been trapped into this virtual world. In the outside world, they were completely trapped, and the only way to break free was to mentally break free of the imprisonment of the matrix that they were trapped in. Well, Reclusa didn't think of one thing. As part of the matrix, their minds actually make characters appear that they used to remember, and one of those characters that appears is Lakitu holding a camera returning from Mario 64, and this very camera can actually exploit where Reclusa is running and flying around within this world, and also all the secret platforms and hidden objects that are in this world as well. Mario and Luigi uses this to their advantage to continue to find Reclusa in this world, and not leave him alone by continuously chasing him down and dealing damage to him. He eventually gives up and actually gives them the option to leave without testing them first with a fake Princess Peach asking them to stay, before Mario and Luigi continuously denies that fake Peach and actually leaves the Matrix. But continuing their way to the top of the tree, they are met with the giant army of Reclusa's minions. But before they're finished off by the minions, Bowser and his army come to the rescue with their airships and continue to rain down hellfire into the entire army, allowing Mario and Luigi to make their way to the tree. Snoutlet gives the bros a hover plug to ride in order for them to use their fire and ice powers to catch up to Reclusa and knock him down. But Reclusa has had enough and actually flies into the mouth of the solid tree and actually turns into the solid tree himself, where then the bros have to battle the tree and make their way up the tree eventually. But the tree starts emitting this poison gloam all over the area, which actually knocks out Snoutlet, Mario, and Luigi, and eventually Connie. But just in time, she comes in with her watering can of bonds and sprinkles them over the cast in order to revive them right before she herself is knocked out in the process. Mario and Luigi and the rest of the gang are now revived, and now it's up to the bros to take out the dreaded solid tree. Snoutlet makes another plug for them to ride, and they ride up the base of the tree, using their fire and ice powers as well to make their way all the way into the inside of the solid tree's mouth, where Reclusa had previously flown in and hidden inside. Reclusa decides to hide himself inside the weeping cord in order to defend himself from all attacks for a while, but it doesn't last long until the bros are able to break it apart and take down Reclusa in the process. He then plays the card of acting like he's changed and now he understands right from wrong, but then of course tricks the bros and breaks the floor apart. The bros then use the rest of their bond power to join together during the freefall and absolutely obliterate Reclusa. With this, Reclusa is now defeated for good and turns into nothing but bond energy floating in the wind. The land of Concordia has now been saved from isolation. It's all about bonds here, and strong bonds is what makes this world flourish. Where Reclusa wanted a land of isolation and individualism, the amazingly strong bonds of Mario and Luigi were able to save the day. And it's these very same bonds that helped them to escape the solid tree's destruction altogether. With the bonds of Mario and Luigi combined with the bonds of Connie and her mentor Cosette, they were able to form one last powerful bond in order to help save them from their freefall and return them to shipshape. Mario, Luigi, Peach, and the gang all say their last goodbyes before leaving the world of Concordia, as the Great Conductor has just enough energy to combine all the islands, but at the same time needs to open up a warp because once that energy is gone, it's depleted for a while. Mario and Luigi say their last goodbyes to everyone, but then we get a real meaningful, impactful last goodbye between Bowser Jr. and his new best friend Buddy, where Bowser Jr. tries to play it cool and act like he doesn't care that much, but you can see it all over his face that he is torn to pieces to have to leave what seems to be one of his first and only best friends that he's ever had in the series. But even stubborn Bowser Jr. can't play it cool for too long, as he gets real emotional and flies away as he says his last goodbye. The time for Mario and gang is here. The islands are all put back together thanks to the power of the Great Conductor and the power of the great lighthouses, and Concordia is formed once again. Connie gives Mario a seed sapling to take with him back home, and the rest of the gang jumps into the warp hole, even Bowser and his minions, and Bowser even helps a couple of minions that didn't make it in time. But everyone makes it in just in time to be sent back to the Mushroom Kingdom, their homeland. Back on Concordia, everyone's now living their happy, soulful lives being connected with one another. And the Unit Tree's energy is as powerful as ever. Of course, back home, Bowser is once again at his antics, invading the Mushroom Kingdom with his son Bowser Jr. and army in hand. And of course, it's up to Mario and Luigi to save the day once again. But thankfully, the Mushroom Kingdom will always have a piece of Concordia to be remembered, thanks to the tree sapling that Connie gave Mario. This was truly a super exciting story for me. I actually felt sad that I had to leave the world of Concordia, and I was so glad to take part in it. And honestly, it's probably my favorite Mario and Luigi story to date. And I don't think we've experienced a story quite like this since Super Paper Mario or even Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. So seeing something this deep and this exciting with characters that I'll always remember was something that I definitely hold near and dear to my heart. But you guys let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the story. Do you love it? Did you hate it? Let Let me know down below. And make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Mario and Luigi and Nintendo in general. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.